Well, hello there, folks. It's me down here at the bottom today in the red and the sunset, glorious sunsets in Queensland, Australia at this time of the year. It's gone August, and traditionally in August we have our winter southwesterlies come across the desert. But these last 3 days have been very mild, and temperatures rising up to 26 degrees. Although I did see someone say it was 31 down on the Gold Coast. Anyway, enough of that, and I just want to pass on to our co-host in the UK, who sits right at the very top, Lady in Pink today.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Dreaming the New Dream. And I can hear myself echoing. So anyway, today is the 17th of August, 2023, and we're swiftly moving through the year. Still waiting for summer here. Now, today's guest is Mark Leib, who I met a couple of months ago at a workshop. So welcome, Mark. It's lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you, Andrena. Thank you, Jeffrey. Good evening, Jeffrey.
Oh, I think we've lost Jeffrey. So anyway, I had the pleasure of meeting Mark. And Mark, you told me a lot about your work, how you work with the land, you work with sacred spaces, and you clear karmic trauma and so many different things. So I thought that would be lovely to have on the show to help others to know more about your work and working with the land on, the sacredness of everything. So would you like to start how you started in life and where you started in life and what's brought you to this point now of doing all these amazing designs?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, I was born in England, and then I studied design in England and doing interior architecture. And then when I was 30 in 1999, I moved to Australia, and I was there for about 10 years in Sydney. And whilst I was there, I restarted martial arts that I'd done as a child. And I discovered a system of Tai Chi. I'm sure your listeners will be familiar with Tai Chi, but I was studying it as a martial art, not just as a health form. And I trained in a very advanced system of Qigong, which some of your listeners may know about, working with the internal energy of the body. And the effects of that was there was an unintended effect, and that was that my internal energy system was activated. And we hear now people becoming having awakenings, and through different means, through plant medicine, through meditation, through trauma. Mine was through this internal energy, the mechanics of this internal energy system. And I pretty much changed overnight from being someone that was essentially working in a very materialist, in the quote unquote normal world, and I became aware of a much greater aspect of reality in terms of design and in terms of knowledge and wisdom and ancient traditions. And I spent about 2 or 3 years doing very intense research, not knowing where I was going, like I was being dragged or pulled by an external force. And at the end of that period, I'd read so much and discovered so many things, and I realized there was a way for me to be able to continue my design work in a new paradigm, in a new way, and that was by being able to design spaces in which I could allow people to heal, to allow to connect to the universe, to be able to develop connections to the land, to enhance their lives. And essentially, this comes under the title of sacred design, and I'll explain what it is when we have a look at the presentation in a moment. But really, this was all very new to me, and came a result of this energetic training. And then that happened around about 2006, 2007. And then in 2008, I came back to the UK. So I've been back here about 15 years or so. And then I found a teacher. I found someone that was able to allow me to do these things, to work in this way that had sort of bubbled up internally. And I found a teacher and a tradition. And I studied with him for 10 years, and I undertook a very formal apprenticeship and did professional training. And so I studied in a system called the tradition of the master builders, which is a French tradition. And it's traditionally, in terms of design, the architecture tradition didn't exist 1,000 years ago. There were builders who built stone structures, and then there were the geometers, the people who created the geometry, and these were for sacred buildings. These were for churches and temples, and this tradition went back thousands of years. And the tradition which I learned had retained all the ancient knowledge, and it had come through various traditions, through the Celtic tradition, so the knowledge of working with the energies of the land, feeling the energies of the land, recognizing the different qualities of spaces, and then being able to then locate power spots to place essentially your temples, to find the place of the land where there's fertility for humans and for plants, to make plants grow better, and places of healing, so places like holy wells and healing sanctuaries then developed. And this art was worked with in a very natural way. People working, understanding the cycles of the year and working with the land. And then information then came about when the Templars and the Crusades happened, information came back from the East, geometry and astronomy and alchemy, information that had been lost in Europe for 1,000 years after essentially the church controlled all the knowledge. And then the information came via the Templars, and there was this knowledge that had been lost was then brought into southern Spain, into schools that translated this knowledge, and so it was art, literature, alchemy, sciences, geometry, and included the Gothic arch, which was the Arabic arch, which became the Gothic arch, which allowed them to have this revolution to build these huge new cathedrals and churches. And so for 1,000 years, my tradition utilized both sets of this knowledge to then build these huge edifices and to be able to encapsulate the energy of the earth and also the rhythms of the planets within these structures. And that knowledge was essentially held within a tradition, essentially secretly. It was secret knowledge in the same way that let's say Apple would guard their knowledge of their coding and how they, their intellectual property was kept the same way. These traditions kept it very, very secret. And then around about 100 years ago, they stopped building churches. And then around about the 1960s, there was the master of the tradition who held this knowledge, decided that it was time for it to be public. And then there was several generations of teachers that have reconstructed the knowledge because it was almost lost. Over generations, knowledge is lost if it's not really written down. And my teacher and his teachers spent 30 years bringing the knowledge back together. They went all over France and all over Europe and refound the information. And then from about 10, 12, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they've been teaching again. So this knowledge is now available for the first time in millennia. And some of it goes back to 4,000 to 5,000 years. And the tradition was, in its current form, in the last 100 years was in France. It wasn't in the UK because it was based within a tradition. There was a traditional system of these groups. They were like guilds that held their knowledge. But now we have it, and we use it to build new places, to heal ourselves, to balance our homes for health, to be able to create healthy spaces, and also create specialist spaces for spiritual connection. But we don't do it for the church anymore. We do it for anyone because the energy from the earth and the planets is everyone's birthright.
Amazing. Go on.
I then finished my training. I did 3 years, very extensive training over 3 years, and then I I finished that training in about 2018, and since then I've been working exclusively with that knowledge to build landscape structures and balance homes and special spaces, and we're going to see some of that in the presentation.
Fabulous. So can I just ask, what is one of the biggest projects that you've worked on, or even some of the most difficult with traumas in the land? And
well, I think that there's different aspects of work. There's I'm fairly unique because I'm the only person in the UK that has done the training.
I was going to mention that. So congratulations.
Thanks so much. So there's the work split into, I guess, 3 areas. There's the creative design work. So let's say someone would like a healing center. I can then bring in all of this knowledge into that space. Then there's I love building structures, stone circles and medicine wheels. And then there is the balancing and the healing work, the balancing work, fixing the spaces. So they're actually 3 very different aspects to the work, and sometimes they do mix. Whenever I'm doing a piece of creative work, the balancing work comes in, and that will then be physically balancing the land, and then also then removing the trauma. So at the moment I'm working on a project in Wiltshire, which is very, very special. It's a retreat center where there's we're working very much in the very correct way, working from the energy lines upwards. So really starting with the energies, and there's a very, very big topic in terms of the different energy lines. Some of your listeners will be familiar with ley lines. That's especially down where we are in the southwest, the Michael and Mary lines, which are very big lines people are very aware of. And where Jeff, you are in Australia, there is the song lines of the native Aboriginal peoples. There's these different lines. So each of these, and there are different layers and different aspects to the sacred geography of the land, and each hold different frequencies. And sometimes those energies can be blocked, so they need to be unblocked. And other times there are aspects that need to be cleared to make the place safe. So I worked on a centre just 2 weeks ago down in the south coast near Brighton, and there was in that space there was a portal and a gateway in that space that was connected to the earth energy lines, what was then allowing entities to come through. So these can be thought forms, and these were actually also disconnect entities that were actually connected to the land. So you've got different frequencies, some from the land, some also from former souls that have lived on the land, and also from thought forms as well, which are almost like cultural memes or cultural ideas that can almost accrue a form, or also as well emotional things. Anger can be directed, and emotions can be directed at places by neighbors and by former associates. And when any of those emotions are added with intention, they can take a form and a thought form, and then they can actually become stabilized. And all these things can then be contained within and connected to that space, which can then affect the health and the balance of the property. So we did that clearing, and overnight the owner was able to sleep well and was able to have a break from some of the trauma that was occurring from that space. Also, as well, it's a place where there's healing done, and when people come to be healed, we think, okay, it's a wonderful healing space, but each of those people that comes also comes with their own energetic aspects, which can then by resonance go, oh, I like this here because the same vibration is here, what I'm experiencing, and they can connect onto it. So there can be very complex layers. And then the next layer, of course, is the things that are occurring from the electromagnetic spectrum as well. We have so much new for 5G, and Wi-Fi and many different frequencies that have complicated things. And these things add additional levels and additional stress. Many people have electromagnetic stress. I can, when I'm doing my analysis work, I work to be able to tell people, and tell them the levels. I can understand levels. I mean, so for example, I'll explain at the end that process. But
Okay.
so I work a little bit in that field, but primarily I'm working to design and to create spaces and to build and have them as perfectly balanced in alignment energetically and physically and emotionally as we can.
Fabulous. Okay. All right. So I know you've got a presentation to share. So are you ready to?
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that. Okay. Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks, Jeff. So my work, my studio is called Sacred Design Studio, and that can be found at markleib.com, as you can see on there. And I'm sure Jeff's just been popping the email up. Okay, so it's okay, fantastic. So sacred space and what it is to be sacred. It's really important just to explain that. I think that whether it's the inner space within the body or with the space as we understand in terms of time and space and Star Wars type space, out there space, everything is connected as a field of conscious energy. And that it's an ocean of energy, an ocean of divinity, an ocean of conscious geometry. And all the ancient traditions, whether it was Taoist or Indian or Buddhist or Mayan or Native American Indian, they all recognized this. And they had their own cosmologies that described the sacredness or the divine nature of our reality. And now we have quantum physics that has corroborated exactly the same thing, and they just have a different language for it. And in my work, I recognize this, that everything is a connected field, and as well as wanting to create really beautiful, harmonious, high vibration spaces. The greater work is that I feel that if we can all live and work and create these spaces, we can raise global consciousness. And by through connected to nature, through consciously recognizing that everything is sacred and divine, we can then raise the consciousness. We can dream the new dream, as you guys, as your podcast is called. By doing that, we're able to then connect ourselves to the planet, because in all the traditions basically said that the planet is alive and we are alive, and it's that the recognition that connection is what makes something sacred. It's the connection between heaven and earth. This was the classical definition of what is a place to be sacred, somewhere where heaven and earth are connected.
Totally.
So as I mentioned in my introduction, the ancient traditions recognized the sacredness and recognize the patterns through different means, through meditation, through astral travel, through astronomical observation, and recognize cycles of the planets, of geometry, of mathematics, and within music, to create a very, very complex system of sacred science. And in my tradition, we have the very advanced methods from the Celtic, Arabic, and Vedic traditions. And it was these methods that built all the edifices of the ancient world. I then supplement that with biofield testing technology and a new process of accessing the quantum field to be able to test. So testing directly with the consciousness of the field itself, and also then using technology to be able to check spaces and to be able to read out. So I'm able to use the best of the old and the new.
Okay.
So up here on the top right-hand corner, that looks like the rings of Brocknor up there in the Orkney Islands, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well spotted. And then we have New Grange. And then in the bottom right is the Grotto of Magdalene in south of France. And then the photo with me dowsing is that is the Alhambra Palace in Granada in Spain, which is a incredible artifice, like a seventh wonder of the world. And I encourage everyone to go there. It's an incredible city on top of a city within a city, and a place of divine order. I mean, I can do an entire presentation on that separately. It's quite spectacular. So all of these, we're seeing here different structures at different levels, where from very much from literally a piece of standing stone in the ground all the way up to the very high art and culture of the Arabic tradition that was brought into Europe. Okay, so one of the key aspects of understanding why something is sacred is that something is connected, but it's alive, and there's a vitality to it. So the earth has an energy body, the same way that humans have an energy body. We have many different layers. We have the chakra system, we have the nadis, the meridians in the Chinese Tower system, and many different layers. The earth has that as well, and there are physical aspects that create that. These earth energies that can be water, geological fault lines, and each of these in some of these physical aspects can then also have energetic aspects as well. So that we talked about ley lines and the dragon lines. These lines propagate from different means, through electromagnetic, through sound resonance, coming from solar energy, from the electric universe model, by transduction from the sun to the earth, many different ways, and also because of the cycles of the moon and the sun, the way that the movements create change, different grids and vortexes and power places occur. So these are energetic templates that exist on the earth, and there's many of these. And part of my work, part of the training, which is called geomancy, which means to divine from the earth. There's now a new version called geobiology, to basically really understanding the living aspect of the geo itself, is to be able to feel the energies in the earth, and then to recognize where there are blockages, and then to open those blockages, to clear the blockages, and then also to find the places that are healthy for life, find the places that are not good, and also find the places of high vibration. Traditionally as well, a geomancer, which is one of the arts of my tradition, would do that work, and also they would also find the places which are the best place to die as well. So traditionally, where to locate the cemeteries. Also now I think it's very important. I mean, in terms of where's the best place to be born, and it's not in a hospital, because there's too much Wi-Fi. There's way too much technology. The best places to be born is to be born at home. The best place to be born, there's no electromagnetic loads. The best place to be born is surrounded by nature and in love, and also the same way to die as well. Dying in hospital is an absolute disaster. If you die in hospital, you're completely disconnected from nature and from the vibrations of the earth. And so this is one of the big things that we've lost as we've moved into technology, that our connection to the earth and the sacredness of the earth, which birthed us, where we've unfortunately lost. So this is like natural burials. We were talking about burials before, actually being buried in the land in more natural ways, and so we can then, and so it's really important that our end of life care, as well as how we live, allows it to connect to that land and to that sacredness of the earth, to enrich our lives. So sacred geometry and sacred sound. A key part of the sciences was the high art of sacred geometry, which is a huge topic, and that can move from the golden ratio and the shapes of natural forms, like I have here, like shells, or the ancient traditions recognized patterns and shapes that essentially they recognize as the divine blueprint of nature. So the golden ratio, which some of your listeners may have heard about, which is a ratio that was discovered in a mathematical system, which is 1 to 1.618. We have it in our bodies. So, you know, from this part of my finger to all part of my hand, that is 0.618, and that's 1. So our entire bodies are built in these ratios, and also the way that plants grow. So the phyllotaxis, the arrangement of leaves is set out to 137.5 degrees, which is the golden angle, which is the golden ratio in terms of an angle. And every plant leaf, it works to that angle and that ratio to get the maximum sunlight and get the maximum life. And all the ancient magicians recognized these proportions in geometry, and these were utilized in art. So Leonardo da Vinci would use them, and the great Renaissance masters, once the information came back from Persia, they then started to explore this higher of geometry that they'd lost, and they would use these proportions in art, in painting, and in sculpture. And so these proportions were used in temple building for millennia. And these proportions, as well as being geometric, are also sound. And this sound knowledge, these harmonics, exist within our bodies. So we are sacred geometric structures, but also those proportions were then discovered at the macro level. So Johannes Kepler, in the 16th century, recognized that the proportions between the planets were in harmonic ratios, in the octave system. So basically, we live within a universe, from the largest levels to the smallest levels, down to DNA structures, where we are living geometry, and then that geometry allows, because we're living in a complete geometric system, the use of that geometry allows light, biophotons, and high frequency sound to come into our bodies. It's the structure that allows DNA to function, and also allows consciousness to actually work. So Roger Penrose, who's like one of the foremost physicists and quantum physicists, recognized that microtubules, and these microtubules, the actual structures working with DNA, they actually recognize that this was how consciousness is able to ground itself into us from hyperdimensional reality. So our consciousness and geometry and light is one complete system. It's quite a huge undertaking to understand, but essentially the ancient traditions knew this and used this in their work, and I work with this now.
So you had 1.618, and what was the other formula?
Well, 1 to 1.618 is the golden ratio. So, for example, here's a bank card. This is 1.618, the Apple screen. Many things. I'll show you here. This is the classic example.
Oh yeah, the pine cone. Yeah.
Pine cone and spiral shells. So these are the classic forms where what happens is that life forms from these ratios, as you can see in the center of the presentation. That spiral form, this form goes on for this shape. It will go on forever. So the golden ratio has a number system, has a number aspect, and that number aspect is called the Fibonacci series of numbers. It's a series of addition. 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 1 is 3, 2 + 3 is 5, 8, 13. It goes onwards, and as it reaches when it gets to 144, it reaches 1.618, and after it gets even closer, and it's a spiral. It's a ladder that goes on infinitely, and it goes on infinitely inside itself and outside of itself. So the golden ratio has been found to be the master controller down to the smallest level, called the Planck length, and also up to the largest levels within our body. And what that means is that mathematicians call this number, they call it irrational. It goes on forever. And also transdimensional. What that means is the golden ratio is the actual code. In the same way, if we were writing code for an app, for example, or a computer program, that code you write, the code of life itself is written in the golden ratio. It goes on forever. It is the actual number form of pi, which is the Greeks called it. Essentially, it's the mathematical code of that living spirit which expresses itself in every aspect of life, from our fingers down to pine cones. It is the spirit of life. And then and the Heart Math Institute in the 80s and 90s recognized and brought forward heart rate variability, which now is used a lot in terms of health. But they recognized that, and that they saw the rhythms of the heart and recognized how that these patterns and the geometries of golden ratio are embedded within the heart at the very deepest levels. So when you think about becoming in love, what it really means is if we become more coherent, if our connection with love, and hence why the sacredness of things, if we can become more coherent and recognize the sacredness of life itself, whether it's with a human being, our children, our car, any aspect of life, if we can establish that coherent love, those golden ratio spirals actually become more coherent in the heart. There's a geometric relationship between love, vibration, and biology.
What a shame they don't teach us or teach anything like this at school.
It is a very big shame, yes. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
So I apply this and in many ways, and I build meditation pyramids, places for yoga, living architecture and interiors. And you'll see some of this in the next section. Stone circles, gardens for healing, sanctuaries where we can heal ourselves using the elements, and also artwork and objects, furniture and different things. So there's many ways that this can be applied. I can build structures where we can map the constellations, and you'll feel the actual energies of a particular constellation. It's really very broad way of working that can be applied to any level of design.
So you're based in the UK, and if we were in Australia and this Australian was watching and listening to the show, as they do, and they had property, and they could engage your services, and you could actually remote from the UK using either Google Maps for that, or then go and get a cadastral orienteering type map, and then you could just do the dowsing. Would that be how you would play the game?
That's correct. Yeah. So I have a client in California working that way. I've created a balancing geometry to go around his home. We've worked with Google Earth. I've done the design work, and then it's something that he's actually installing himself. So that's one way of working. The other way of working is that I can then connect through the Akashic field, through the information superhighway, the organic internet, and then I can then understand the blockages that are on that property and then clear them. So that work was done first. So the blockages were cleared on the property energetically, and then I'm then working with a physical geometry, and that physical geometry, when placed on the ground, basically brings alive harmonics and music of the land, and that adds another level of protection and balancing to go around the property. Equally, I can also work in the same way by providing design. I have a house project in Spain, which I'm consulting on, the architects in Spain, and I then provide him with harmonic geometry that's in resonance with the location, and he adjusts his architecture based on those dimensions. So when he builds, that building is in harmonic resonance, which we'll talk about at the end, vibrates with the very frequency of the land itself, and then it's more harmonious and more healthy and is more happy. The house is more happy, the land is more happy, and then the people are happy.
Makes a big difference.
I was in Hong Kong and went to Hong Kong Island, and I was told that Hong Kong Shanghai Bank had to go and change the whole complete structure of their new head office, purely because the dragon and the tiger weren't in harmony. So where you would normally come in on the ground, they actually created a humongous big walk-through atrium, I suppose. It's probably about 3 or 4 stories high, where you could walk through up. Yeah, and then you came in on the eastern angle to come into the building. Yeah. And that was only because they said, the money's going to flow in, but the money's going to flow out.
Yeah. So exactly right. So the tradition that I've trained in is feng shui, which is the Chinese, it's actually the Taoist technology tradition. We do the same things. We just use different methodologies to be able to work. The feng shui are working with environmental qi and the way that the different frequencies flow through the land. Feng shui means wind and water. So essentially, it's the frequencies that would be generated, the qi flows, and then they work to optimize those flows so there are no blockages. I work to do the same thing. I just do it with a different technology that's based upon the movements of the sun and the moon and the planets. So different technologies to achieve the same goals.
Understand. Yeah, I mean, the Feng Shui guys here in Brisbane, they always talk about don't reveal the whole garden at once.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on to the next one.
So what I'm going to show here is I'm just going to show some work, and then we'll a couple more sections. We'll show some work, a few pieces of work, and then I'm going to explain a couple of principles. Then I can show how people can work with those principles in the home. So this is a project. This is a project very dear to my heart because I'm a director of this piece of land. It's a 1 acre property near half an hour from Glastonbury. We have a medicine wheel here, which is a sacred circle, and the space was planned out utilizing the geometry, and we grow medicinal herbs and do eco volunteering, and also provide information about how to heal and how to live naturally in terms of the cycle. So we actually use this medicine wheel to connect the cycles, and so that this is a classical way of using the geometry of the land, which is expressed as music, to design the dimensions of the structure. And it's the same whether it's a medicine wheel or whether it's a house or whether it's a yoga shala. I am able to calculate the music of the land and design with that. And then when you build with that, those structures are in harmony with the frequencies of the land. And so we've been developing this project for a year and adding more elements which are in resonance with the land. And so we're growing here a lot of herbs and specifically for healing.
I noticed you've got east, west, north, south gateways.
Yeah.
And then you've got 6 points here, and you've got 6 points here. Is there any reference for 1124?
Yeah. Well, what that is that there's a lot of geometry, which I'm just going to. It's set so as we'll see in a moment. Alignment is very important to the work. So aligning with the earth, aligning with north, south, east, and west, aligning with the magnetic field of the earth. So all ancient structures were orientation and alignment was very, very important. Also here, the inner line of dots essentially is a stone circle within the medicine wheel. So what we've done is we've applied the Celtic science to create this medicine wheel, because medicine wheel was used by the Native American people, but it's exactly the same as the Celtic cross. So, and both are a solar symbol. Both are the symbol of the sun, a cross within a circle. And so this is a vortex structure to be able to bring harmony and balance to the land. The numbers of stones there are very specific. I calculate, I work out what is the prime harmonic of the land. And in this piece of land, it's 8. So that's actually a polygon, which is an 8-sided shape rather than the number 8. And in my tradition, we have the knowledge of the different frequency applications of the different polygons. So, for example, a tetrahedron will be 3 and a cube will be 4. And then this, so the 8 is the octahedron. So that would be 2 pyramids matching each other. And so once you know the prime frequency of the land, you can then use that as a key to open the energy of the land. And so in this case, it was 8, but I needed 4 gateways, so I had to multiply it by 3 to get 24. So I would then get 4 equal gateways. So there's a lot of maths and geometry to be able to open the energies. And essentially, what's happening is the rhythms of the planets, the relationship between the rhythms of the planets and the Earth creates these frequencies. So the best way to understand it is that what I do is I draw a mandala of the land to create these, to understand these frequencies. And that's like a horoscope of that place. So a birth horoscope is a geometric map of the relationship of the planets to your place of birth and time, in space and time. And those relationships, the frequencies and the movements of the planets in their cycle and its constellations is what gives us the qualities of our birth, whether we're a Leo compared to a Cancerian, for example. I do a similar process to be able to create a mandala for the land. And that mandala is like a horoscope for the land, which gives me the energies, and I choose the energies to work with in the same way that a herbalist would then choose different herbs to make a specific remedy to balance the body. So if you go to Chinese herbalists, you say, I've got heart problems, they would choose 4 or 5 herbs, but to balance the heart, they would balance the kidney, the liver, and the spleen, and would also balance all of the system. And working the same way, where I combine these different frequencies of the land, and then together it then creates harmony. In this structure, you can see a large stone in the foreground. There are 4 of those big stones, and that structure is like a musical instrument that plays the music of the land, and they will play it until the end of time, and until someone moves those stones. So what's happening is that I'm creating a musical instrument with the natural, innate harmonies of the land, and I give it back to the land to heal the land with its own music, its own frequencies.
Fantastic. Love it.
So that stone, is that granite or is that sandstone or is it quartz?
That's not a sunstone. That's it's red, but it's an igneous. It's a form of granite. We have sandstone in the rest of the space. I've just built one which you're going to see in a moment, which is we have granite. You'll see another one in a moment, which I did in Devon. You can see all the granite and the quartz in it. So traditionally, you ideally want granite because it's going to last for millennia. But also there's a piezoelectric effect. The quartz within the granite is then compressed and is going to create electric charge, which is going to create more power for your sacred site.
Well, here where we are, right where we're broadcasting, all this area here is granite with quartz in it. So I understand exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
This is a new creative project. This is for holistic saunas. So Andrena, we met at a Temazcal, which is a Native American sauna, which is in a dome space. So essentially, saunas are incredibly powerful for health. Especially it's now easy to get hold of infrared saunas for your homes. And so every tradition has understood the power of fire and water. And what we have here is we have a roundhouse, a circular structure. So with the Temazcal, the sweat lodge that we were in, circular. And so what I'm looking here is this is a project to be able to design a sauna in the round as well in a timber structure. If you think about North Scandinavian saunas, they're generally in boxes like this in timber. So this is about linking the sacred nature of the circle and the ancient Celtic roundhouse to create a sauna space utilizing the earth energies for health. Okay, so this is the other structure I was telling you about. This is a large 16-meter medicine wheel I built in Devon about 2 months ago. And this is on a large farm, and you can see here, this is so orientation and alignment is very, very important in all the work. So that the structure is aligned. You can see through the middle. to the rising of summer solstice. This actually works as an astronomical calendar. It sets the solstices and the equinoxes in all the positions, and it is aligned very specifically to true north, and is made with granite. If you go on to the next slide, Jeffrey, you'll see there's a close up. So here we've got four very large quartz granite standing stones, which actually came from locally. The smaller stone on the left of the image is activating a protection circle around the world. That's one. Yep, that's activating the protection, and then through the center, that dotted line is showing you stand in the middle, and then look through there. On summer solstice sunrise, the sun will come up behind that stone, and then the stone where I'm standing, I took the photo. That's summer solstice sunset. So this basically it becomes a calendar. So and the place, and it allows you then to be in a place where you can recognize the season, the movement of the planets, the seasons, and recognize the sacredness of the Earth and its connection to the planets. And everything being a living system. So this was as well as being a place for healing. These were places for connection, and traditionally there would have been ceremony done, and music and dance and song, and using native plants and dream work. Many different ways would have been used. In the same way, Andrena, we worked in the Temescal, a sacred circle, aligned to the directions, using fire and water and song and prayer. It's a different sort of circular sacred structure.
So where do you source all the stones from then?
Well, the stones are, we try to get them as local as possible. Yeah. So the client, usually what happens is the client will then find someone locally to them. This is Devon. This is all Devon local stone. So in this case, these stones came from near Exmoor.
Right.
So we want to be as local as possible, so we're not transporting them. Whenever possible. So it just depends on the project.
Okay.
So those photos of summer solstice. This is a piece of design work just showing how the design can be applied into new structures. On the left, those blue lines are the energy lines underneath the ground, and there's a spiral showing a vortex. So that's showing how we choose the right energetic location for the structure. Then the structure is orientated to the directions, and then the structure itself, in each dimension, that music I talked about is in each dimension. So each dimension is a musical frequency. So that would be unknown to the person using it, but what they can do is ultimately it's going to feel good, it's going to be energized. And by locating it on that vortex, you're locking in the energy of the planets and the rhythms into the earth energies. And so you'll then have that connection between heaven and earth, the two sets of information, the harmonies of the planets, the vibrations of the earth energies come together, and that then is a place that is then connected between heaven and earth. It's very balanced. Ultimately, we want balance. Also, then we want, depending on the space, we can then choose the energy qualities that we can achieve, whether it's very, very calming, meditative, or more active and very vibrant.
Fascinating.
And I think this is the last project I'm showing you. This is a labyrinth, which many of your listeners and viewers would recognise. We built this in Ireland several years ago in Cork in Southern Ireland. And when you a labyrinth is a powerful archetype, which means that it's a shape that has its own power through its geometry. And then when you take it into the third dimension, it attains more power as opposed to than just being drawn on a piece of paper. But then when you build it and you proportion it, so you adjust its size to the music of the land, it takes on another level of quality. And in this case, it's when a labyrinth is built with those proportions, it becomes a device in which to really heal us. And so you can see here, I've noted on They're different. These are the meridians of the Chinese meridian system. When you walk it and you stand in those locations and stand for there's a specific process to be able to stand, and you go through each one. When you come out, it's like you've had an acupuncture session. And
really?
One of these was, my teacher built one of these in Chile. There were 2 acupuncturists there. People went through, they tested them before and afterwards, and they recognized a balancing to the system had occurred, and even in some people, a physical results had occurred by walking this. Now, when people normally walk a labyrinth, they walk it as a cosmological diagram. They move from the entry point to the center and then back again. And it's a meditative process. But when you build it with the harmonics, then becomes an actual healing structure. And then also the third level, which I'll tell your listeners about, because it's really important, is that when we built this, when it was completed, we had an Irish seer, a lady with very powerful clairvoyant sight, was stood in the center. The moment we put the final stone in place, the power turns on like a circuit. So it's an energy circuit. It's that immediate. And as soon as it was turned on, she saw spirits come from the 4 directions that were jostling, not in a violent way, but were jostling to take ownership of this new harmonic space, this new place of purity in the land. And she then saw different triangular geometries, this way and inverted, which were a result of the large stones around it. And so she was able to see that. She was able to see at the energetic level, at the level of archetype, at the level of energy, the energetic field, what was going on. So when you recognize that all of these ancient sites were built, the energy aspects of the architecture is the key. The physical defines the energies, but the blueprint is the energetics. And so we go back to the very first slide. All ancient cultures recognized that energy and consciousness comes before physicality. And in here, when we have the archetype of the labyrinth, it comes with its own energy template. When you build it, there are particular energies that come. So the difference is that the energies and the energetics from a labyrinth are different to those from a medicine wheel, because they are different templates, they're different geometries, and they have different effects.
Yeah, amazing. Right, Jocelyn's asking if you've got a labyrinth in Axbridge. No,
we don't. We have a medicine wheel only. The reason we have a medicine wheel is because it's a herb garden, and in the medicine wheel you have 4 sections. And in the medicine wheel in Axbridge, we planted it out with herbs from the 4 directions. And we thought actually the original brief was a labyrinth, but the labyrinths don't allow you to grow herbs, to plant herbs, and it's really hard for watering. So we have to balance up, the practicalities as well as the energetic aspects. So we went with a medicine wheel because it allowed us to have 4 sections for plants, and also it gives you a large central circle, which we use for gatherings and for sound healing. In a labyrinth, you have a small section that's only good for 1 person. So they're different structures for different purposes.
Mm. So the Earthlight Medicine Garden, is that open to anybody to come along and have a look round? Is it open certain times of the day or week?
Well, we have there's volunteering every Tuesday from 10 till 12:30, and everyone's welcome to come and help. We have it's generally not open because it's actually on the property of the YMCA. So we have to let people know when people are coming. There is we do workshops, we do trainings. We did dowsing workshop there last month. We have an open day in September, so people are more than welcome to come. And so that's earthlight.uk is the website, and people can see those events on there. So it's it is hireable as well. People do come to hire the space out. We have groups that come. We have a a forest school that uses it as well. So it has many uses.
Yeah, fabulous. Sounds amazing. I'll have to come and have a visit.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, Carol asked about the labyrinth in St. John's Church, and we were sat in the churchyard yesterday having lunch, and I was watching people. Is that one as effective there as any others?
well, it depends how they've been built. I've not been into that. I've not been into that one.
Right.
They will all depend on how they're built. For example, if they've been built on an energy point or not. And so, for example, if the famous one is in Chartres Cathedral in France, and Chartres is built on a very big energy point, and so and that is a very, very potent. It depends whether the builders have located them on an energy point, and also it also depends on how much it's used as well. If lots of people use them with focused intention and consciousness, it will then attract more earth energy lines. And this is a very big topic. But the more a space is used, then the more that more energy to it, and then it becomes more potent. Okay, so there's a couple more. I think we have one more slide in the work. I'll whiz through. We'll whiz through these, Jeff, because then I want to basically just explain how people can bring these aspects into their life. So this one. So this was just some research we do at Earthlight. We work in pyramids. So not only for humans, but we're using very special golden ratio pyramid to enhance crop growth, which is ongoing work. So I'm just going to do a synopsis here for the listeners. Essentially, there are 3 secrets to this. It's like, as you've seen, it's a very, very big topic. It's very complex, and I've brought it down to essentially 3 ways that people can bring the energy of sacred architecture into their lives. Number 1 is alignment. That literally means to line up with the Earth's magnetic field, line up north to south, traditionally we do line up with planets in different ways, but just lining up north to south. The next one, Jeff, please. This is resonance. Resonance means where 2 bodies are in vibrational linked vibrationally. They have the same vibrational frequency. So here I'm showing water, for example. If we in these cymatic drawings, you can actually when these patterns and frequencies are resonated, they look like water. And also the top left image is a ceiling in the Alhambra in Spain. So we're seeing here how the builders actually built a ceiling which is completely mimicking the movements of these sound waves, and of course sound waves also relate to water as well. So this is why having water at sacred sites and is also so powerful, because we are at least 70% water. So when we can come into resonance, we can then feel the earth energies. When I teach dowsing with rods, we start to find water because we're in resonance with the water. And then the third one is connection. So that is that when we can bring those 2 together, and then we can then apply different methodologies, we can actually fully connect. So when I'm building architecture, it's with geometry and form and mathematics and a lot of different aspects. But when we're doing it ourselves, when we can become aligned, when we can resonate with our environment, and then we can use things like focus and intention, and then we can recognize the land that we're in, we can then get into deeper connection. We can then actually draw the sacred into ourselves. So how do we apply that? So the next slide then just shows what I've done is I've put together a slide for the viewers how they can actually do that, because it's how we can simply do that. So the very basic aspect of sacred architecture is the circle in every tradition, and so there's a really easy way to be able to bring all these aspects together. If you have a garden, or if you go into the forest, or even where you work, an outdoor space is best. You can do it at home in the house as well with plant pots. You make a circle if you've got some space, or on a patio in the conservatory. You can use plants is great, because then you're going to bring the living field of the plant and each of the plants into the circle. You can do it in rocks as well. You can make the circle any size you want, but the I'll go back to Carol's. Carol, I'll go back to your comment in a second. There are particular sacred dimensions, and there's a dimension I've given here. 42 centimeters or 84 centimeters is a very special dimension that can be used anywhere. It relates to the frequency of hydrogen. And if you use that, you're then going to come into resonance with that aspect of life. Then connect. If you can sit on the ground, or at least have your hands on the ground, and then connect to the earth. Then you can use a compass on your phone and align yourself to the north. Just face the north. So you're aligned to this magnetic field, and then you'll then be in resonance with the rhythm of the place of the location, and then you can then start to just breathe naturally. And if you breathe, and then allow the breath to come through all of your skin, and then as you slow down, you're then going to come into more resonance with something called the Schumann frequency. Schumann frequency, which is recognized at 7.8 hertz, has been recognized as the master frequency of the Earth. It's like the Earth's heartbeat. And the Schumann frequency is actually a series of frequencies relate to the frequencies of the brain: delta, theta, gamma. Those and so when we can start to breathe more slowly, and I'm sure many of your listeners will be aware of this, when we start to slow down our breathing, we can then start to come closer down to 7.8 or even 8 hertz, which is a magical frequency used in harmonics, to be able to then resonate with that space. And so just by creating this circle, by doing these few things, we can then use alignment, resonance, and connection to be able to have a sacred space. And it's nothing more than that. And then what I also say as well is, like, the location of it, just find a spot that feels good to you, and a lot of times that innate quality, that innate ability, this just feels good. Like, oh, I don't want to sit in this chair, I want to sit in this chair. Just apply that to the circle, and you're going to make sacred space. And really, that's something that you can do in your garden, or even if you go on a walk into the forest. If you build it with stones and mark it out, and you use it, the more you use it, you're going to then attract the energetics of the forest and the elementals, and also when you build a circle and it's used repeatedly, energy lines get attracted to our emotions and our intentions and our gratitude that's put there, and they're attracted to the very center of the circle. It's a very powerful way to be able to bring all of these aspects into your life.
Well, that's very helpful, Mark. I think a lot of people will be following that up. It's nice to know, like how to build a circle. And yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Right. Okay.
So what I'm going to end on now is there's a couple of ways I work. So we've talked a few times about the remote way that I work. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an offer to the viewers that are watching today. If they go onto my website, they go into markleib.com, and then if they go down to the bottom of the homepage, there's a place where they can just sign up, and they'll get sent a PDF called the Spiritual Secret. But also, if they would like to interact with me, what they can do is, once they've done that, I have their email, and they said they'd like to do this. What I'm going to do is if they then send me a plan of their garden or a room in their home, I will then find a positive vortex, a really nice vortex in their home. That's then going to be a great place to do yoga or meditation. And then if they want to build the circle, they can use that there. That will then be a vortex of really nice energies to be able to then build their circle on, so they can take it another step further. And then I have a new service also on the website called Property Harmonization. So if they go to markleib.com/property harmonization, they can then see that service. So we've talked about that. So how I can work with them remotely. So if someone's in Australia, I can then look at the property. We can clear all the geopsychic stuff. We can really understand what's happening in each room. We can work out where the best places are, and also the place to avoid. the best places to put beds, so you can enhance your sleep, and then get a complete understanding of the energetics of the home. So yeah, so if people would like to do that, I'm more than happy to help them.
Well, that's fantastic, Mark. You know, that's a lovely gift to offer at the end. So thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it.
We have 2 more slides, Jeffrey,
Yeah.
just on how we're going to finish off on just on a couple of events. There's one before that, but we can start on this one. So so we talked about the medicine wheel. This is the medicine wheel in Devon. If anyone's in the area, for the Australian listeners, it might be a bit of a problem. But on the 16th of September, I'm doing a workshop at the medicine wheel where we'll be teaching about all the aspects of the medicine wheel, and people can learn to dowse. That's a full day. And then the slide before that, Jeff. Thank you so much. I'm speaking this Saturday in Glastonbury at a day conference called Let's Co-Create Heaven and Earth, where I'll be speaking about the sacred mandala and how to bring it into your life. And then there'll be a big talk by Rory Duff, and music and sound healing, and it's a very wonderful project to be able to really envision how we can bring heaven and earth, which is essentially the main thread I've been talking about through the whole of the presentation. And I think that's it.
Wow, that's very enlightening. Oh, Carol asked about the crop circles, didn't she?
Yeah. What did Carol say? She said something about sound.
Hang on, just finding it. Something to do with the sound in the crop circles. Oh,
do you think they are representations of sound waves? Absolutely. I'm actually doing, on my talk in Glastonbury this weekend, I'm actually analysing a number of crop circles, and in my work in the geometry, they are the geometry of sound waves. The crop circles are representation of sound waves, absolutely. There was an amazing guy called Professor Gerald Hawkins in the 90s, decoded over a course of several years some crop circles, and then found them to encode geometrically the proportions of sound waves that had never been seen before, and even found Euclidean proportions that Euclid had not even worked on. So these crop circles were showing information about the nature of geometry that were not in the rules of geometry. And this is such a big leap. And on top of that, so they are representation of sound waves. Many people believe that not many people. I would say that some of the world's foremost crop circle researchers do believe and have a very good working model that the crop circles are created with sound frequencies, and when the crops are created, the crops drop, and the patterns, which are incredibly complex, are created within minutes, and what happens is the crops are bent through a series of heat and sound, and these patterns, which are sacred spaces themselves, actually then measured. The years of research, they were measured, and sound frequencies were recognized at ELF, extremely low frequencies. And essentially, they became temporary sacred temples that actually did resonate those sound frequencies, and in their geometry, they represented those sound frequencies, which were part of the geometry of life itself, the blueprint of life.
Mm.
Yes, right. Well done, Carol. Absolutely right. Yes. Hello, Jocelyn. Yeah, you can come. Absolutely. We have. If you love gardening and you want to work on, you want to help, we'd love to see you. Tuesdays between 10:30 and 12:30. We do. We have an eco a volunteering group. We have an open day. I'm going to tell you when that is. And our open day is on the 24th of September. We have an open day, and if you go to earthlight.uk/events, you will see the listing for it there, where there'll be workshops and talks. You can come and feel the energies of the medicine wheel, and there'll most likely be some sound work there, and organic food and stuff for kids, and we have a really lovely day. And then we do, you know, people can come separately, and it's horrible as well. So you're more than welcome to come, Jocelyn.
Fabulous. Well, thank you, Mark. It's been really enlightening, absolutely amazing. So I love your work and I love what you're doing. So keep up the good work, and thank you for being our guest this week.
Thank you so much for having me. We have a Carol's just jumped in right at the end. Do sound waves answer the mystery of the images in Rosslyn Chapel? Yes, they do, Carol. I don't remember the name of the person, but there was a guy and his father, and they were a composer, or one of them was a composer, and they decoded those symbols, and they took those symbols and they turned them into music, and they played the music. So absolutely, yes. And so sound is the key aspect of all sacred sites around the world. In terms of sacred geometry, sound, how much has humanity been diverted by the change of 432 to 440 hertz? A lot. 432 is a natural tuning, and even the small change of the 8 hertz difference is very inharmonic. There's something called in terms of, it's a huge subject. In terms of harmonics, the Catholic Church decided to take out the most beneficial frequencies, and they removed them from use, and then hid them. And there was a lot of these being rediscovered, called the solfeggio frequencies, and also there's something called the tritone, which is called the devil's tone. So the tritone, which is the basic of jazz music, and many wonderful frequencies. The tritone also is very, very special. The church stole it. They hid it. They took it away, and they said it was a devil's tone. It wasn't at all. It's because it was an activation frequency that would allow us to be able to develop ourselves spiritually. They took it away. So yeah, and so 440 was another aspect where sound was controlled to be able to take away the most beneficial harmonic aspects of frequency.
Amazing. Right. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, it's been an absolute delight and pleasure. So I look forward to catching you somewhere along the track somewhere.
Hopefully you can come to our open day, Andrena. Come and see us.
Yeah, no, that'd be nice. I'd like that.
And come and feel the medicine wheel. It's very powerful. Thanks, Jeffrey, for doing a wonderful job on the PDF.
Thank you. Very good.
Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for listening this week, and same time, same place next week. And thank you once again, Mark.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Andrena. Have a good day. Have a nice evening, Jeffrey. Mike.